Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are, and welcome back. If for those who have seen my videos and on my previous videos and so forth, welcome back. For those who are new, hi, and welcome to my archives. I like to call it, rather than call it video, I like to call it my archive or my record and documentation of my collection. Uh, Recently, a lot of people have been trying to decode and speculate on some of the banknotes of Japan. Recently, a few days back, one of my favorite YouTuber who inspired me to love Japan so far. I won't say his name, but we can find out. But you can find in the YouTube only in Japan. His I like his video. Most of it is very educational and inspired me to plan my trips. Walking, I love walking in Tokyo streets. It's one of the fun things I love to do, especially in Tokyo. You don't, having a peace of mind. Tokyo is very relatively, I would say, safe. Even the visual impact is look very dark and glimmer, uh, and quite spooky. I would say some alleyways are spooky, but it's there's a peace of mind that is safe. That's one of the great things I love about Tokyo. If you go more traditionals or like rural sites, the night walk is even spookier, more dark, I would say, because there's not many lights turn on in rural folk areas. The village, Kyoto is still relatively bright, but you get the feeling of the old ancient atmosphere view. I really love walking, and what this YouTuber has done is something that I really love to see. What he does walking around inspire me to actually create some of my own plans of where to walk. So I just recently saw his video talking about, I mean, this will be his second video. His first video was talking about the introduction of the new Japanese banknotes in 2024, since it's currently in circulation. And there was a second video, YouTube, talking about some um, of the issuance of the banknotes and so forth of the new banknotes. So the question that he's arise, I really love to explain a little bit my personal view. So I put a little disclaimer: whatever I say is my own view. Nothing considered absolute right. So I will not take any credits or any sort of things that I have said is factual. It's just purely my own suggestive answers, speculative answers through my inside intuition on collecting banknotes. Now, personally, I collect banknotes across the world. I collect banknotes, but mainly I collect Japanese banknotes, from modern current banknotes to probably I'm targeting before by my end of my life I would should complete till the Meiji era's banknote. That is one of my, I mean, the modern westernized banknotes print by the Japanese since the Meiji era. That's my focus point of my collection. If you look at my previous video, I will be telling you that most of my focus point on that. The other second collection I'm more focused on is China, People's Republic, Republic of China, but exclude Imperial of China because those are very rare and very difficult to find, and they're very expensive, quite out of my capital rich. And the other one will be the United States of America's banknotes. Now I'll be collecting here bits and there. Some of the banknotes that I love. Uh, American banknotes. One of my most prized banknotes, I actually frame it for now, is this little beauty. It's a $50 uh, 1914 series. Well, during that time, it was during the First World War. We're coming off I believe, the first financial crisis, the Wall Street crash. So the only good thing about this note is low serial number. B is obviously from New York State, the bank issuance, and behind there is a star. Sorry about that, Chico. There's a star, which means it's a replacement note, much more rarer. That's why the serial number is quite low. Currently, in this condition, it worth about 12,000 to 15,000 US dollar. So it's one of my prize collection, I would say, in my collection at the moment. So yeah, I am very very happy to have this, and the back looks like that. With the statue in the middle is the statue of Panama. It's written down here, Panama, between the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean, bridging two great ocean via Panama Canal. So progress, basically. So this is one of the notes that I'll be keeping it for a while, but it's also my insurance in case I need emergency money funds, that sort of thing. But anyway, I do collect some American banknotes, so yeah. So before I move on to the main topic, even though this is my personal record, sidetrack a bit from the main topic of the day, is that America's politics. Less than 2 weeks, there will be election in United States. Probably the first Tuesday of November will be the election, and of course this tomorrow, or this coming Sunday, some people might be much more still on Saturday, would be the general election for Japan, where there will be a new government, a new coalition, probably, who knows. But you ask me, Japanese politics are quite stable and predictable. Who's gonna win? Definitely the Liberal Party will win. LDP will win. I'm still very surprised that the Japan Communist Party still hanging in the balance, but not as a major opposition. So yeah, I like the Japanese Communist Party's policy, but the way they are taking actions to win the election is quite poor, if you ask me. Uh, Japan have the same problem politics like in my country, in Malaysia, in the old days before 2008. Is the government of the day prefer the opposition to be divided rather than united? Because if they're divided, the voters will spread even further, guaranteeing the ruling party to win the election. So the principles of putting one candidate against one candidate, like what the Americans are doing, or just recently the French did, is pretty significant. But you really need to negotiate to provide a position that you can agree upon. So that's all for the sidetrack. Coming elections, both countries very excited. Who will win? We do not know. And hopefully for United States, it's just Kamala Harris would win. That's my hope for a better, more stable and more predictable economic and politics. If you go for Trump, it's going to be very unpredictable and it will quite suffer in the economic side of things. Anyway, back to the topic. Now, what I wanted to talk about is the new banknotes in the issue by Bank of Japan is 1,000, 10,000, and the 5,000. Now, of course, it's true. Many Japanese people did not receive as a huge quantity of this note. They're still receiving the last series. I think the last series is called the E series. If let me double check, make sure it's correct. E series, E series, E series. Yep. The last series, is E series, and this is considered F series. There are many, as being told by certain people, I would say, that they are issuing E series fresh notes, uncirculated, as we call it, uncirculated banknotes being issuing out. Why are they still issuing the old one? Why not they straight away immediately all of it issuing the new one? Well, Japanese typically are quite well-oiled machine. They are meticulous plan, and they are quite there are no surprise there, to be honest. They overlap things so that there are smooth, more secure transition of things, especially the vending machines and electronic recognition readers. Certain vending machine probably in the rural areas still not yet upgraded to read this new banknotes. So in order to give a buffer, now this is my speculation, as from now on forward my information are quite speculative, my own personal opinion. That's a disclaimer, so I won't take it as a fact or true. To that point, it's just my own view. Probably true, probably not. You comment it. So in that, where was I? Yeah. So certain vending machine may not have been prepared. Some companies have not been fully updating the software and so forth. So Japanese Ministry of Finance, the coordination with Bank of Japan and the Ministry of Finance, to ensure that there is a bridging period of transition. So they will be slowly issuing the new banknote as of they already issue in 2024 this year, but they've already printed this 3 years ago. In the year 2020 and 2001, they already introduced the new design of the banknote. It's already confirmed in 2020 or 2021, and they started print. The National Engraving and Print Bureau, the National Bureau Engraving in Japan, started to print this new banknotes, and they store it for 3 years. Imagine that in the year 2020 or year 2021, they already start printing this. They already cut it. They already stacked it, piled it together in a box or in a crate, and they store it in their vault or somewhere secure warehouse for the last 3 years. Imagine that. They've kept this money 3 years. It is yet to be legal issue until 2024. So the Japanese, as I said, they're quite well-oiled machine. They run everything in a very fine tune. So when they start planning this, it's already 3 years ago. But again, they also continue in print the older one. Now, what's the reason? Number one is a smooth transition. Number two, to clear out their serial numbers to the maximum before they transition to this. Of course, this one, when they start to transition, all the serial numbers are actually brand new. Actually, it's brand new. Some of people who are non-numismatic And when I look at the Japanese banknotes, you will notice that the E series, like the 5,000 and the 10,000 yen, they have the front serial number 2 alphabets and a single alphabet. And the back will have 1 alphabet. And the color is different. If you notice, some might notice, some might not notice. If you frequently holding and handling Japanese banknote, you will realize there's color difference. The first one would be the black color, and then the second one would, both will be black, right? And then once they run out the number, let's say it's going to reach a zigzag, which is actually replacement. It's actually zigzag, a Y or something in the last alphabet. Y, and then the numbers is 899,999. Then they need to change the alphabet in the front. So they start with the A first. When they run out of alphabet at the back, from the front is already Z, and the back is a Y. They can't change it to the Z at the back because, maybe it's easier I just show the older one so that explanation would be much clearer in picture. I hope. Yeah, something old, something like this. Yeah. Now this is much older version. I don't have immediately the last series of Japanese banknote. This is during the miracle economic boom, but they have the same principle. You notice this? One alphabet, a single alphabet at the back. So this number will go Z, and then this will go Y. That will be the last prefix, and then the numbers will be the first one, and will be the last one. Should be 8, because if both are Z, the front is Z, the back is Z, and the first number is 9, basically 900,000. Those notes are replacement notes, are much more rare and much more valuable in certain quarters of people who are collecting replacement banknotes. American replacement banknote is, you notice there at the back there there's a star. That's why they call it star notes. But certain countries, like my country, like Japan, most of the British system, we tend to see we use the Z or Z as an indication, as a as a replacement note or prefix of the note. So yeah, that's how Japanese done. And this color is actually black. One of the very obvious one is this series. This is the D. I would say D series. Notice the prefix color is different. This is the brown, double prefix, 2 alphabets in the front, 1 alphabet at the back. Now the back will always be 1 alphabet, but there will be 2 alphabet in the front, and this one is a single alphabet in the front. Now when they first print issuing, the first serial number would be an A 000001A. That is the first running of the banknote, and the first running of the banknote in this type of series is black color. Once they run out the black, they'll go for the chocolate. Then like certain like 1,000 yen, which they print more quantities than the bigger denomination, because smaller denomination is more, many people are handling it much more, and they tear and wear is much faster, because most of the time the banknotes projection to last about 5 years, 4 to 5 years. For the 1,000 probably will last about 2 to 3 years. So because of the frequent handling by the consumers, by people, for changing, buying goods and so forth. So once they run out of the alphabet, they'll change the color, and they put it from black to brown, and it's start with A again and so forth. But of course, once they run out of first single prefix of this one, they'll move to double prefix, means they go A, 00001 A, until you reach like this Z and then Y at the back, or ZZY. The last 8, the first number is 8999999. Then that's it. The next one is they go back to single prefix in a different color, serial number. Now this series is a little bit more complicated. If you look at the engraver's printing, the black one, they use the older name called okurasho. We call it in a short sentence is okurasho. This is the old name of the engravers and printing of the banknote. The Bank of Japan is the legal body of the banknote issuers of this value, but the printer or who prints the banknote, the name is right here. Now in this series, probably in the D series, they went through 3 different change of names. Okurasho was the first one. The last one they changed is actually Koku, the National Engraving Bureau of Engraving. The middle one is called Zaimusho. I think I have a catalog book to show you detail of that I personally written. Right here, if you can see it. So this is the first one, okurasho, which all the older ones of the banknotes in Japan, they use this one. Then the transition to zaimusho, and then the transition to national, which is used till today. So today's banknotes, the new one and the E series, they'll be using this name. So as you can see, the print, this is a black color, this is the brown color. I put 1 and 2 means 1 prefix at the front, 2 prefix at the front, and then they change color to this one. Now when they change the banknotes, the engraver's name, they don't print the first prefix. They just straight away print the same color, brown, 2 prefix. Then when it ran out and then they change it, they still use brown and 2 prefix. Now after they changed this one, they upgraded the banknote security feature. Now that's another topic that I will discuss later on about that. But talking about collection rarity, for this series, D series, the one that's the older one, with there's no blind man kind of thing, but there's 2 dots here, or 3 dots if I'm not mistaken. That's for blind man. But if the visual one, you don't see the L here or L here, the E series, because in 2003 they printed national with the old one, and then in 2004 they changed to the E series. So it's much more difficult to find the national printing name right here in this version. I've already take, as you can see in my collection, I have take, all of them are almost complete. The only one I don't have is the brown in an okurasho, single prefix, and the national double prefix, brown. That is all. So yeah, so talking about that is the difference of that. So for collection, like the E series and the D series, for the D series, for me, is very difficult task to complete those set. D series was a little bit easier, but the difficult thing is to find the single prefix and the double prefix in the different colors. They have the color system and the prefix system of the single and the double one, so it's still a little bit difficult. But as a collector, for me, the newer series, for that system, they eliminate it. There is no more double alphabet or single alphabet, so it's clear. Probably if this continues to run, they might change the color. Once they reach ZZ 8000999 and Y, then they probably will change color. But that it depends which one comes first. Either they change the design of a new banknote series, or they're upgrading their security feature because of counterfeiters. That's right. Japanese are quite fast reactionary people when it comes to counterfeits. The D series and the E series look almost similar. The difference is the E series of the Japanese banknotes is an upgraded of the security features, correct? They are just upgrade the security feature. The principle, the design, the portrait, everything is still remain the same. It's just they upgraded the security feature because the the D series has been compromised. I think if not they reach a certain amount of the total quantities of banknotes returned, commercial banks will collect old banknotes and they don't return the issuance or to the public because it's the wear and tear of the banknotes is already reached the point is unusable. So most of the commercial bank will hold it and then they will return to the Bank of Japan to be destroyed because they need to have to accumulate the amount and need to record the quantity in the book in and out, of course, for their accounting. So when they discover that they reach a certain amount, probably that year if they receive no more than 3 or 4% of the total banknotes returned to Bank of Japan are considered counterfeit, discovered and identified as counterfeit, the red flags goes up and they have to report to the Ministry of Finance and so forth, and they have to make a decision, and the most easiest decision they ever made is revamp the security feature of the banknotes immediately. So the transition from the D series to the E series was a quick one. Was initiated in 2003 and released in 2004. So it was a quick action taken by the bank and the engraving company in Japan. So either those two might happen, whichever scenario, highly unlikely at this moment in time that this banknotes could be counterfeit at the moment because of the so-called 3D holograms, where the portrait actually will shift its head towards one side to the left and facing towards you when you tilt the banknotes left and right. Obviously I can't do justification here because I tried to do in a video. I don't think you can see the head move. I can see it, but I'm not sure whether you can see the head move facing you, and then it faces to the left. So you get some 3D holograms. Now, this is quite difficult if they don't have the proper technology and machinery to print such hologram, or I would still calling it a silver holographic threads in here. The other easy things probably is the microprint, the intaglio ink printing. Probably is still very easy. The security features for printers, the Urian stars, invented by the European companies, representing like the Eurostars. So once a printer scan this, any printing machine, it's supposed to render it void, automatically written void, or it won't able to print or scan the image. It becomes invalid. Typically, mostly those any banknotes which has this funny little stars that you can see, it's supposed to have both sides. Yep, there is, as you can see, this side. They are coordinated dots for the printers. They are used for the printers to prevent copying this banknote through Xerox or any plotting machineries. So it's quite universal language. So yeah. So what I like to talk about more about is this banknote rather than the other old banknotes. The idea is, why did they change it? Question arises, why do they change it? What are the changes? What are the great significant compared to the older series, the previous series? To that is one thing that I enjoy as a banknote or currency collector, the numismatic community, is to find out why this new banknotes was made. Why are they designed such a way? Why are they changed? So I'm trying to debunk some of them with my own mind of readings of some books, some people's other people's knowledge passed down to me, discussions, speculations. So nothing is black and white fact. Okay, I'm just sharing some information. Probably other people might know the truth, but these are things that probably is true, but not confirmed. Probably, so I don't take credits on this answers that I'm going to look like I'm going to answer it. Number one, the question is, why do they change? Japan has quite a tradition, especially the Bank of Japan. If you notice, if you look at the records of the banknotes, there is dramatic change in the design since Second World War. There are dramatic changes. The dramatic changes every time, every 20 years, 2 decades. Every 2 decades pass, the banknotes will be redesigned. The last design of the O series was the E series. Was issued by the E series, but the E series has the same concept design, other than the enhancing the security feature due to counterfeiting. But it's as similar as the D series. The E and the D series design is the same. The figurehead is the same. You have the 10,000, the Fukuzawa, for both of those series, the E and the D. So the last overhaul from transition from the C series to the D series was 20 years ago. If I'm not mistaken, it was printed in the year 2001. Let me clarify that in my catalog book, whether it's true. Yep, there we are. For a second, the last print that started was there in 1984, and then subsequently from 1984 the print. 20 years later, they start to change the engraving of the name. So probably that is how they change. Every 20 years there will be some minor or major change. But if you're talking about the design change of the banknote, normally it will take 20 years, 2 decades or more, no less than 2 decades. So once you know that, it's like predicting the mega earthquake in Tokyo. You know it's gonna happen anytime now or anytime soon. It's just you don't know when. It's the same thing as the printing and the redesign of the banknotes. We know that it will happen after 2 decades. They will have subject to change and redesign the whole banknote. But you just don't know when. Could be 21 years, 22 years, 23, 24, 25, could be even 30 years. But definitely it will be above or more than 20 years, 2 decades. Anything less than 2 decades, the changes are normally because of counterfeiters, and they will enhance the security feature rather than changing the design of the banknotes overall, like selecting the new figureheads or portraits for each denomination as it is right now that has been changed, as you can see. So things like that probably would be the mind in that at least you can make a projection of the changes of the names. So I probably expect after 2044 to 2045 there will be a major change in the design of the banknote in Japan. So at the moment this will be the new one. Now, as there are people say that in Japan these notes are still not so popular, it's not widely used, and they still find the older version brand spanking new, banks still issuing the older notes. So again, I'll just clear that is again, they are in transition period. They have excess of those old banknotes. They need to release them all. They cannot burn it, they cannot destroy it, because it's already value into it. So they can't just simply whack it off. They need to distribute it and let the public use. Do tear and wear and then return it when it's not fit for use. So during the transition period, they're still pumping out, so it will stretch a little bit more, probably the transition 5 years. And it's give the take that during that 5 years, majority of the machines, software and hardware able to finally read all these notes, these new notes across Japan. You still can find vending machine doesn't recognize these notes. I guarantee you, especially in rural areas, they are still not recognizing this note on the vending machine. I won't say like all of them don't unable to read new notes, because Japanese people are quite well planned. But even well planned, they give a very huge buffer of the smooth transition. There should be no interruption and so forth, like a sudden jolt of change. No, they don't like that. Japanese people don't like that. They like smooth sail transition. So that is one of the reasons why you still see old banknotes are there. And technically speaking, if you ask Bank of Japan, which notes are still considered as legal tender, to be as legal tender is, this note during Japan's Japanese economic, so-called their miracle economic success during 1960s and 1970s, these notes were printed. Do you know what? This note today is still recognized as 10,000 yen face value and is legal tender as 10,000 yen. That's right. Although the public community, especially the older generation, might recognize this, the younger generations may not. They think this is a fake money, this is an old money, it's a counterfeit, it's a joke money, because they never seen this before. They weren't born at that time. But probably the older generation, probably the baby boomers, the silent generation, might know this note very well in their fond memory when they were young, working hard to earn money back home. So technically, Bank of Japan is still recognizing this note as legal tender. So goes to other notes in 1960s. All the notes are still legal tender. They even still considered, those days they had 500 yen banknote, 100 yen banknote. Those are still considered face value legal tender. That's right. Those notes are still legal tender. Those 100 yen, those older notes. I can show you some of those older notes here. Like this 500 yen note, this 1,000 yen note. It was printed like in the year, what year is it? 1963. These are still considered legal tender on its face value. This is still 500 yen. Of course, today 500 yen is considered coin. The largest coin of its value is 500 yen. 1,000 yen note. These are still considered face value and still legal tender in Japan. 5,000 yen note. This one is still legal tender. 50 yen banknote is still legal tender. 100 yen banknote is technically still legal tender. You probably can find this information in Bank of Japan. In the interest of the Bank of Japan, they are still technically legal tender. If you return this banknote to the Bank of Japan, they are still obliged to give you the money according to the face value. They must take this because it is not you haven't declared as not legal tender. Of course, the older ones, like notes like this, like during the wartime, like this notes, this already scrapped as not legal tenders. During the Empire of Japan, during the transition period, like this notes, these are no longer legal tenders. These are all no longer legal tenders. But notes like starting from this one, starting from this notes, they are still legal tender in Japan. So certain items probably we can consider as legal tender. So that's fun fact. I could say that is a fun fact. All right, now back to the original of this note. Okay. What can I say? Okay, other than the hologram, the other one reason of a question that I arise: what sort of things that change? Now, normally, when you certain banknotes would tell a story, is written on the page. Now, comparing the older versions, the last series and this series, the one of the biggest fun that I discovered, so-called fun discovery, is the denomination of the banknote. Number is large. I mean, freaking large. This number at the back is huge. The 10,000 is huge. The 1,000 is huge. And you compare it the older versions, look at it. It's tiny. It's small. It's literally very small. It's tiny. So even you look at the a bit more modern, probably in 1990s time or 1980, the denomination of the 5,000 is small. If the front and back are small, as you can see. What does it tell? Number one, my biggest speculation is because demographic of the society. Today's Japanese demographic society, there are far more people who are above 60 years old. Yes, there are way more senior citizens. And what does senior citizen have? They have visual impairment. They are handicapped in the visual. So that is one of the reason that I would say they increase the size of the font, so that the elderly people can read. 1,000 yen, 10,000 yen, 5,000 yen immediately. Another one is color. Blue color represents 1,000 yen. Orange color or reddish pink color, 10,000 yen. And purple color is 5,000 yen. Both front and back has the symbolic gesture of those colors in it. So that is one of the reasons. Another one is visually impaired. They improve, but I have some suggestion that I might consider that it is not so well. Another one is this. If you see those so-called dash lines here, and where's the Japanese 5,000, the dash line is for visually impaired people who are blind. So when they fill this note, on the side there's a line here and it's short at the corner, top and bottom, basically at the corner. They don't know where it's top and bottom. At the corner they feel this is as the bar lines here, and it's on the short side of the paper length, indicates as 1,000. If it's a if they fill it in the middle of this note, in between the short side of the note, and it's in the middle from both sides, you can feel it, then it's 10,000. But if you feel the 5,000, okay, at the center, probably they'll just feel at the center, and it's at the long side of the note, it's not short side, then it's 5,000. And that is how they design for those blind people. That's why if you see why there's this funny lines here, those are for visually impaired. Now, in my personal opinion, having such a thing and a revamp change for the blind, if you look at the older series, for the blind, they actually use another system. They have dots here, and when the visually impaired feel it, they know how many dots here. 1 dot, 2 dots, 3 dots. That indicates the value or denomination of the note. Now they have changed to this. One of the big problem is changing a new banknote for visually impaired people or people who are blind. People who are blind need to re-educate themselves and understand the new banknote, which are the denominations. They have to re-educate themselves of the new banknotes, knowing that which is the denomination, 1,000 is like this, 10,000 is like this, and 5,000 is like this. They had to re-educate themselves from the young to the old. Especially the older generation might be difficult or stubborn to understand this. What I would suggest is to use the universal braille system. Which country uses this braille system that, as I know of, is the People's Republic of China. The Chinese banknotes, even today, from 1980s till today, they started to use the braille system, internationally recognized. Knowing that it is feeling the braille on the banknote, anybody from London, if you're from England, if you're from America, Canada, Swaziland, Zimbabwe, Egypt, when you feel that banknote from China, all of them would recognize the denomination. By using the universal braille system, it's easy for access from anyone to read the banknote. Compared to this system, although aesthetically looks very nice, if I'm not blind, but for the blind people, it's very difficult for them to understand. Or this symbol right here, short. If you feel it in the middle, it's 10,000 yen. If it's 1,000, if you feel it in the short side of the note, and it's at the corner side, that's 1,000 yen. If you see it in the long side and you feel it in the middle, and in the long side, it's 5,000 yen. Re-educating them is kind of guessing, for international people is a disadvantage, especially for the blind who are non-Japanese citizens. They have to figure it out some way or somehow, understanding the denomination. Whereas in China, no matter where you are, as you are a tourist going into China, from the day one, you can actually understand the banknotes denomination because they use the braille language, if some might call it braille language. Those dots, 3 dots, 4 dots, L dot, and so forth. Those dots that you see is for the blind people to read. When they feel it, they feel it like this, they know that is what denomination of the note. I don't have a Chinese banknote with me, so I won't be showing that to right now at the moment. I was not so prepared. So anyway, that is one of the great things. One of the so-called things that they have changed and modify it. Now, color, probably I would say is they much more refined. They already started using this in E series and D series of the color changes for people who are still able to see color and understand it when they look at the banknote. So what they had done compared to the old series is they enhanced those colors. The purple right now is becoming even much purple. The orange or the pink color with the green tinted becomes much more darker, more prone, and the blue, most obvious, has become much more bluer. So the indication is much easier of the banknotes from far. Alright, so what else did they change most? Now, the figurehead changes, that one is based on what the survey and the historical impact of the note. Now, one of the things that I want to reiterate is they wanted to use a figurehead. If you ask me personally, my own view, I would prefer their smallest denomination or the largest denomination, either those two, to have the Emperor Meiji portrait. Now, to Japanese, probably that is unholy, is blasphemy. But in the after Second World War, things are quite liberal, but yet you want to re-energize Japanese nationalism, have faith in their monarchy. One way is transition is through banknotes. Many monarch countries does that. For instance, Brunei, Malaysia, Thailand, Saudi Arabia, uh, United Kingdom, uh, and many other countries who has monarchies. I would say, you know, Swaziland, Lesotho, in African countries that I can think of. They still have monarchs, so they have figurehead on the portrait of the banknotes is their current king or the great king in the past. So Japanese can use the current king, or I mean the current emperor or their very first emperor of Japan on the banknote. That would be more interesting as a figurehead, being to re-energize the meaning of having a monarch of the country. Of course, probably my ignorance. People say I'm ignorant and so forth. And Japanese is now more than democratic country. The monarch is just a figurehead, or if you just remove the figurehead, it's blah 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 blah. We can go on and talk about this discussion for long, but that is just my personal view of change. But in the essence, what they have selected is it is 1000 kind of reserved for historical figures who contribute academic science to the world. Bacteriologists, genealogists, kind of that kind of way. The 5000 banknote, they more contribute to the women's side. Now that is quite balanced, I would say, to have figureheads on the banknote that contributed by the female society in Japan. Like this one is if I'm not mistaken, Stuba. There's one university under her name and so forth. That she was the first to go to America, to one of the first batch of study in university, a much more better education, and I came back to educate in a modern curriculum to women in Japan, propelling the women's society to have education, basically, in the nutshell, in a layman's term to say. Now, the 10,000 normally reserve something more prominent. The last one was used Fukuzawa, was one of the prominent for literature, educationists, and so forth. But this time they are using something to reimagine Japan is what it's all about even till today. Capitalism. The father of the modern capitalist right here. Now, some might agree, some might not agree in this opinion or statement that he is the very first time on the portrait being printed out in the money. Now, some might say yes, some might say no. Technically, it's a yes. Technically, it's also a no. If you look through the whole history, of course, of the printing of banknotes by the Japanese. In Japan, especially printed in the mainland Japan, it is the very first time he was printed on banknote by Bank of Japan and used by technically legal tender in mainland of Japan. Now, if you look at across during the Empire of Japan, there was a time that his portrait was issued on a banknote. It is the Bank of Chosen or Bank of Korea, which colonized by the Japanese and eventually annexed by the Japanese in the Korean Peninsula. I can show you that note. That juicy note, Korea, that note. The one moment, just gotta find that note so that. Here we are. There you have it. The Korean notes. Let me see that there. So, in Bank of Japan or mainland Japan, yes, there was a very first print on the banknote. But speaking across history of the Japanese history, across the Empire of Japan, the first print was during 1901, 1902. That was the first print of the banknote of the 10 yen by 10, 5, 1 yen in Korea Peninsula, or as the Bank of Korea. It was printed on that. And he was just recently passed away, and in Bank of Korea printed his portrait. And even that time he was recognized as the father of Japanese capitalism, modern capitalism. So some might say yes, some might say no, but both answers are right to me. And the message what the Bank of Japan currently wants to show is economy. Economy, business, capitalism. And putting a portrait who built what is Japan it is today, this business, a lot of the Zaibatsu corporations successfully was established because of him. He established the foundation of companies across Tokyo, across Japan, who started the business, jumpstart a business, and then hand it over to those companies, to other people to run the business as it is till today. So whoever business was started was good old man him. So yeah, now portrait wise is quite subjective for selection. I would prefer a monarch or an emperor portrait on the banknote, like during the Empire of Japan. Floral, quite feminine design on the 5000, which is very suitable. And a lot of people was very famous as this one, the Great Wave of Kanagawa. I think it is very superb to put something cultural, something art, cultural, historical onto the banknote. So this to me is very, very smart. There is a reason for it. And the back is something iconic, is the Tokyo Station. Now Tokyo Station is considered as the main terminus station in Japan, from north to south, connected to Tokyo Station. So being the heart of the country's economic powerhouse, Tokyo, and representing using Tokyo Station is probably one of the great significant link. Now with all that done or design changes, I just said about the denomination, it was huge because visually impaired people, as probably I repeated it myself just to make sure, is for those people who can't see very well. So the bigger number, the better. Now, another thing that is different, just to make sure that the elderly people or the senior citizens don't get mixed up. If they cannot see the color, fine. Colorblind, fine. If they are visually impaired, they can't see the number, fine. But another thing that they can pick up is, now the 5000 will be definitely different from all of them. But if you notice the 1000 and the 10,000, what are the difference that you can see? Pause the video if you want to figure out, but I'll answer it right now. Notice the 1 is different. The 10,000 yen one has, we call it a head, a 1 with a head, where else the 1,000 yen does not have a head. It's just one line. The 1 does not have a head. So when you look at things that very blur, like very blur, I'm trying to make my video look like very blur. If you can see, focus onto my finger rather than the note. When your eyes visually impaired, you can't see, it's very blurry. Normally you can tell the shape. If you're colorblind and then you are very blurry, where else can you identify the banknote? The last line of defense, I would say, is the symbol or the shape of the 1. Yeah, they probably can't see the multiple zeros because they're almost the same. This is 3 zeros, this is 4 zeros. Probably when visually impaired, they're the same number. Everything just go fuzzy like this. You can't see it. But hopefully, the difference of the one, can identify this is the 1000, this is the 10,000. That's one way of my speculation why they designed their banknote. What the number one is totally different from the 10,000 and the 1,000. Is to help a senior citizen so that they can identify the note's value or denomination. Another speculation is probably, but I would say it is very least because of it is we are talking Japanese people. Is this is printed design error? Probably they're supposed to have the head and the one here and here, but they make the design error, so it came out that way. That probability probably just only 1% out of the 100% of my confidence may say that is true. 99% of it I would say is not. If I'm speculating it, the design was meant to be purposely done like this so that they can see the difference. That is what my feeling, my guts tells me that is the correct. Some people might say this is error. They printed error, but it's already too late. They already printed it for the past 3 years, so they have to issue it as it is. Same thing scenario happened by the Australian bank. The Bank of Australia issued the $50 banknote with a microprint spell responsibility wrong. That's an error that they have already released in press statement, and they are not going to hold the issuing of those notes. They already announced that they're going to release it, so it's everywhere. But they only issue those notes. They issue the notes that are already printed. So the future banknotes, without changing the design, they're going to modify it so the spelling of the responsibility is correct. So those quantity of those error notes are considered error, but it's going to be a bit rare and hard to find in the future. Probably, but today you still can find 50-50 chances you still can find. But this one, is it an error? Probably not, because Bank of Japan has not made any statement stating that this note's design is error, but because we already printed for 3 years, we're going to release that. They did not put that kind of statement. So probably, by chance, is my guts tells me is intentionally designed in such way so that people who are really visually impaired can identify the 1000 and the 10,000 by looking at the shape of the head, the top of the head of the one. If the slim one without the head, headless, is 1000, and with the head is 10,000. The 5,000 is pretty obvious. They can't make a mistake because the 5 is a unique shape of its own, so it's identifiable. It's just that there are 2 ones on the banknote, so they need to identify. That is probably my speculation. My guts are telling me that it should be the right thing they're doing. But anyway, that is my observation. Now, we go almost stretch about an hour talking about the notes, but yeah, there's a lot more that I still have to go through these notes to identify the mystery. But again, being a collector of banknotes, being a numismatic, other than searching for the note and buying the notes, another thing, the task that you do is, arrange them in proper filing. You grade them, you look at them and enjoy the viewing it. Another one for me is to find out why the design is such a way. So it gives me a education, as an arts would say, picture drawn will tell 1,000 words. It has 1,000 words. So looking the images and design may tell you why the reason and the purpose. It was printed in 2024. Demographic change, economic change, knowing that they position themselves more globally because they need to attract more foreigners. Tourism, they will become one of the biggest industries for the Japanese. That is one other factor. Why would that be stated that way? Because the banknote does that. Look at it. Never ever I've seen the Japanese banknote print English. Nippon Ginko, and they're written in English on the bottom of Bank of Japan. They're trying to attract foreigners to basically able to read the banknote. The bank normally does write Nippon Ginko. They just write it in that way, Nippon Ginko, and in kanji in Nippon Ginko. They never properly write English and translate it into proper English Bank of Japan. Literally, they don't do that. If you look at even older notes like this one, see, they just don't have any English words on it. Just knowing is the value is 5,000. It's Arabic numerics. Behind is just written Nippon Ginko 5,000 yen. That's it. That's the only English that is written. Normally in the country, the front is always their national language. The back is normally the second most spoken language in the world, which other than in their country, probably English or whatever languages it is. But for Japanese on the new banknote in 2024, they splatter on the front of the note with the Bank of Japan. Why? Probably is because it's easy for international travelers, international businessmen, international citizens, non-Japanese citizens, to read the banknote much more easy. Yen is a global currency. Of course, the biggest global currency is still United States, the US dollar. Second, probably renminbi, and then we have British pound, and then yen, one of the top 10 global currency notes. So they have to integrate somewhat in their design to be at that certain standard of being the global basket of currencies. So that's one of the reasons why they had to have English words and so forth in the front and in the back, more internationally more recognized. So yeah, that's all I can find out today, actually. So yeah, there's so many things that banknote can tell and try to speak to me or speak to any collectors, I would say. So at this point, you know, through the time that I got this banknote 3 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago, I find it very interesting to keep looking at it and figuring out why the banknote is in such a way. So till today, that's my only update that I can find. So that is all for today from me, guys. Thank you very much for listening up to this point of time of the educational review, I would say, on Japanese banknotes. I try, if I'm not buying any new notes, I would probably be trying to make a video talking about the notes, sharing my opinions and so forth. And hopefully in the future of myself, when re-looking at this, probably I might correct myself if I found any errors on my interpretation. So at this moment of time, I would like to say thank you very much for listening, listener. If you like to view the future or get any alert, do subscribe. If you have any comments or add on any opinions, I am open for it, for any opinion. Educationally, I would like to learn more on the banknotes. If I have created any false information, do highlight and correct me. I would really appreciate that. Everyone's opinions and correction. And I hope to see you guys in the future. So please subscribe if you like. Give me like if you wish. But anyway, thank you very much and goodbye.